Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again with Karen, bringing you some more General Hospital, 1982, March 3rd to the 8th. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll chat. They were entertaining. Mainly, of course, Monique and Alan.
Oh, the Monique thing of it all is so funny.
And Leslie, of course, had her breakdown, which we knew was coming. It's building. And I still feel like she didn't have her full-blown breakdown. Like this was like a half a
Well,
break.
I think Leslie's job most of the time is to keep everyone else together. Like her job most of the time, she is so put upon with the clinic, the sports center, the hospital, all these random children she's not related to, her husband and his heart recovery. And like, there's no real time for her to process anything. And like, I feel like maybe she got the wedding photos back and that's what triggered the breakdown because she was looking at the pictures of Luke and Lauren. She was like kind of realizing that it's been months and there's not a hint of anything. And I do understand the idea of like, if you know they're dead, you can mourn them and you know what happened, but not knowing anything is worse.
Just kind of like moving on with life. And if I think it's just getting to her, she's like, my daughter's not here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's like, she could be anywhere. She was on the docks and missing, and it's just
And
all.
remember, she's only known that Laura is her daughter for a few years. So she hasn't had like the full experience of raising Laura. So she was really excited about making sure she was okay. And like she said, I thought she was finally settled down. She was safe. She was married and she was happy. And like there was so much turmoil with Laura when she was younger with like murdering that guy and like Scotty and everything that happened with Luke and being on the run and the Ice Princess and all that. And now she moved to town and was happy for 5 minutes and she's gone.
Did the murder happen, or was that like a future storyline in the past, or did it?
Oh, Laura murdered. No, it happened. She murdered. I say murdered, but he deserved it. It was like Rick's college roommate,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was kind of molesting her, like trying to like do that kind of stuff. And I think they even had an affair. That's why they all talk about Laura like she's a bad kid in the beginning.
So that was
It
actually
was
in
an
the seven,
accident. Yeah, it was an accident. Yeah.
but it didn't. And I know that was the story that came back in the future, right?
No, that's a different story. That's when they think that Rick did horrible things to Laura, but he did not.
Oh, okay.
It was a weird storyline because it was kind of retconned, and then it was like that she killed Rick, and then I think it turned out that Scotty actually killed Rick, and that was all retconned and crazy. So I
Yeah,
can't answer that question, but if you can comment,
yeah,
be a little more specific than me. Also, you can check the GH Wikipedia; it is extensive.
yeah, of course.
Thanks to the fans for that.
So it starts out, Amy is trying to get the scoop on Heather and Joe. Oh, are you back together? I know you'd probably like that.
I
And
do.
Heather's on her way out, and Cynthia Elliott calls. Of course, Amy tries to hang around while she's trying to listen.
You
She's
would
like,
too. You
okay,
would too.
yeah, when I'm at work, I always
Work is boring. Gossip is everything.
when I'm home, I don't care about work,
Right.
whether it's gossip or not, unless I get a text about it, whatever. Anyway, Cynthia Elliott calls. That's the lady she had gone to see and couldn't, whatever, in Canada. Leslie, of course, is sad about Laura, cries to Rick. Jackie is feeling hopeless, but she comes up with an idea to put David Gray's picture in a flyer or in a paper or something
They
like
put it
that.
in the newspaper.
Steve's upset that Rudy is back already because he was supposed to go home to his family and chillax. He's already back.
Dr. Bradshaw's like, everybody eased up on me. Like, my daughter decided on a cheaper wedding. My new wife decided on less expensive handbags. Everything's great. He looks so stressed. He is so lying.
Yeah, he's got problems.
And he's like, work is actually less stressful than going home. And I'm like, man, I feel that. I feel that, but that sucks.
Monique goes to the hospital and shows off her fur. Um, I think she gets a call too from Philippe. Of course, there's a Philippe. I'm
So
like, is he
the funny,
Philippe
yeah, Philippe.
Jean Pierre?
Yeah, but the funniest thing about that is Alan is right next to her as she's talking to Philippe on the phone. And he just like he's like making faces and being dramatic behind her. And he like puts his head down on the counter and all. And it's so obvious they're still in love with one another.
Yeah, it is.
Would have been poly in the future. Would have been a happy poly couple.
Yeah, right.
Open relationship.
Mikey interrupts the Leslie and Rick turmoil at this point, and he's
Because
like,
they
"What's
need to
going?
go to the sports center.
I miss Laura too, and all that." So that's cute.
Mikey's adorable.
Blackie wants to bring a crap game to the sports center. Rick's like, hell no, that's illegal, and we're not going to have an illegal business. Ramsey says no to Jackie and Robert about the paper until Jackie brings up, well, he tried to kill Luke and all this stuff, and he's like, all right, fine, whatever.
He's just trying to shut them up and get them to leave him alone.
We find out from Cynthia that Mr. Angelino made advances toward her in the
Dr.
past.
Katz.
And I think Robin Heather's says the same thing. She's like, yeah, he does the same to me, but she's just trying to get rid of him, as we know.
Yeah, because we've never seen him come on to her at all. We've never seen him act inappropriately. So unless we missed an episode, she's doing this just to get out of therapy. And, go for it.
Tiffany and Leslie talk about their issues together. Tiffany comes up with an idea to do makeovers for the $1 day at the center. Alan, of course, seems jealous of Philippe and is annoyed with Susan.
Yes, because she's getting in his business.
Right, and she's like, "Oh, is that Monica?" I mean, I feel like she was getting in his business, but in this one, she was just like, "Oh, is that Monica?" Because she has like a different look, and he's like, "Yeah, it's Monica, duh!" Like, and he's just like,
"Yeah, whatever. He's horrible. He is horrible, but he's tired of her, and it's obvious. Like,
I know.
I don't understand why he just doesn't break it off with her. I think he's being stubborn.
I wish she would just break off with him. Like,
yeah, I wish she had. Well, maybe she wants his money.
Yeah, she could. But I don't know. It doesn't point to that direction yet. I think it's when she becomes a drunk, then she wants his money.
Well, at that point, she's over it. She's tired of him, and she feels like she's owed his money at that point.
And she kind of is. So Sports Center opening. It's $1 day. They're all doing different booths and stuff. Mel and Laura are on talking about the same shit. Grace sketches in the paper. So she sees it and she's like, I don't want to end up dead, so how about we leave town?
Smartest thing she said.
Right? She actually is probably the smarter one out of the situation.
Yeah, Mel seems dumb.
Right, he really does. Tiffany's not sure that the paper will work. She's like, you got to offer a reward. People aren't going to do things for free. Whatever.
Is she wrong?
Right. I agree with Tiff, for sure. Just leave her in the alley. Ramsey wants to see Luke and the gang. That's Jackie, Robert. They call them the gang because they're always together in their storyline.
They actually did make a Three Musketeers reference this week because they literally are all together, which means they don't include Tiffany in their schemes, which is unfair.
Well, they do. I mean, she was in it.
I know, but they're calling themselves the Three Musketeers. So what is she, D'Artagnan? Like, she's not allowed to be in the full group.
Alan again is mean to Susan in this one, says you should miss the function or whatever because the cues are going to be there.
Yeah, my mistress shouldn't be in the same location as my family and my legitimate wife.
Right. And it's funny, did you see that one commercial during it? He's like, should he be with the woman he loves or the woman he's married to? And I'm like, that was the commercial for Monica, Susan, and Alan.
That's not true, though, because he is not in love with Susan.
I know, it's silly.
It's cute, though. I like their commercials. Yeah. I don't think he was ever in love with her. I think he just wanted to have an affair because he likes exciting new things.
Right. Until it's not exciting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we might have missed an episode because it looks like Susan talked to Monica, she said, and she's like, oh, yeah, Monica's a changed person.
Oh, remember there was a news break. Remember the news broke in to tell us that Jim Belushi had died. So maybe it happened then.
Oh yeah, maybe. And she says that Laura or Monica looks in love.
Also, Rip Jim Belushi, who died this week on General Hospital in the 80s.
I didn't. I thought he died in the
Or
679.
John Belushi? Was it John Belushi or Jim Belushi?
She's alive. Or did Jane? I don't know.
Whichever one was the more famous. Not that he didn't become more famous, but at the time, John.
Jim Belushi's the one that's still alive, so I think you're right. John Belushi is the
Who
one that
names both their children J names? You're just trying to confuse me.
Piper.
Eric's laughing.
Piper.
Yeah, Eric's laughing at me because I'm bad at names and charmed references.
So Laura thinks they should leave town. Blackie offers to protect the sports center with, I guess, like him and his friends. I don't know.
It's weird because I got the vibe that and I think this was intentional. I got the vibe that they wanted to rob them. Like that blonde kid sure seemed like he wanted to rob the sports center himself. Yeah. And then Blackie kind of took it as nobody trusts me here. And then he kind of went to Rick to kind of test the theory that nobody trusts him. And then Rick told him the entire plan, like totally trusted him, gave him the whole plan on where the money was going. And I think it was like a red herring to make us think that like Blackie and his friends are going to steal the money. Like that's what it felt like in that episode.
Definitely, because like, didn't Blackie just come to town in January and was causing a ruckus? Like
he was smashing stuff, and he painted, I'm gonna assume, genitalia all over the sports center, and they had to clean it up because it was all ruined.
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, unless maybe
I don't know.
I don't know. If I were Rick, I would have totally lied about the whole situation, and then But I guess he's way too trusting.
I think Rick just thinks everyone's inherently good, which is nice but flawed thinking.
Seriously. Ramsey brings up the stolen horse and all that stuff.
Oh, so. Everything they did in that one episode that you were like, this episode is so ridiculous. They broke the gate. They stole a horse. Jackie stole a bike from a kid. Like they stole a car. And all of this stuff comes back to haunt them. I was laughing so hard during the scene when that little girl was like, that lady stole my bike.
Yeah, they did they caused a lot of ruckus. And it was very funny. The follow-up definitely was more fun than the actual event.
Yeah, it was not fun to do that, but it was fun watching Luke squirm and offer the guy money for the gate. And then the guy's like, yeah, I guess we could call it even. You know that gate wasn't really broken if he gave him money and he shut up. Come on.
The other guy was like, yeah, I'll take a 20 too. 20 and then Robert. Yeah. She's like, well, Robert, you were involved in this too.
They're always trying to get Robert's money.
Yeah.
From his fake diamond mines that he doesn't.
Mel and Laura try to leave town, and David, of course, pops up.
And then he says all the same lines he's been saying for the last 3 months, all in one room. And I'm like, oh, God, please shut up.
You know, it's so annoying. The Edward and Alan scenes were fun in this, too. As Edward's like, I've seen more of you in the past 2 days than I've seen of you, like, or whatever, in the past year.
Do you feel like he's testing the waters to go back home? Because he's literally like always at the mansion, just kind of hanging around.
And he says AJ's the reason. You never see AJ around, so.
No.
He's like, oh yeah, when I came to see my son, nobody's with AJ. This is why AJ turns up a drunk.
Poor AJ, so neglected.
Like, is he ever on, like, and has a storyline in it? Like.
No, well, there's one storyline, which we're going to come up on probably pretty soon, is because Monica and Alan are fighting so much, AJ runs away, and I think they find him at Kelly's, and then they send him to boarding school. These people should not have had kids.
Seriously.
And then in the future, everyone loves Jason more than they do AJ, and it's just such a nightmare for him, and that's why he's one of my favorite characters ever, and he always gets done dirty, and it sucks.
Monica, is it Monica in that scene? Monica, I have her noted as dressed as a genie because
at the Dollar Day thing.
No, it was before. I think she was with Edward and Alan.
Oh, okay.
Genie pants on and that pink top with the.
Oh yeah. At the mansion when she just comes in and like she starts giving him crap for being there, and he's like, "It is my house. I can come by whenever I want to see AJ." And she's like, "You could have stayed with your son, but you moved in with your hoe,"
Right.
which was very funny because I'm always on Monica's side.
She's like, yeah, you gave up AJ for life, or your kid for life, even though she's never with him either. So whatever.
They are high-powered doctors, and they must have. Is Stella watch? Do they have a nanny? Like, is that what Stella does when you don't see her on camera? She's just carrying the baby around.
Should have a nanny as well as Stella, because Stella
He's like 2 now, right? He's not a baby.
Yeah, I would think he's about 2. Yeah, because he's older than Jason, right?
Yeah, he's older than Jason because remember, Monica thought that Rick was the father, and it turned out to be Alan. So like Monica, Leslie, and Rick are back together and remarried. So it's been a minute.
And Jason's not born yet, right?
No, I think she's.
Oh, where'd you go?
What happened?
I don't know. You went away.
You went away too. Anyway. So like we're in the future, so we already know what happens to Susan, and like Jason's a baby, like he's a child now.
Right.
So timeline wise, I don't think she's not pregnant yet. She's not even a drunk yet.
Right.
The future is falling, guys. Susan becomes drunk.
Ramsey.
Spoilers for 40 something years in the past.
Ramsey brings the people in, and Luke pays the dude off. Next episode, Jeremy and Steve getting ready for Dollar Day at the Sports Center. This was an annoying episode, because it was very loud.
And you couldn't really understand what anyone was saying at the Sports Center.
Literally have like 3 sentences.
So. I can say that it was really funny watching Alan, because Alan brought 2 basketballs and then spent the entire time at Dollar Day like shooting hoops and winning, and like everyone thought he was like, he put a lot of money into basketball. There was like Alice got a makeover, which was really cute because everybody kept commenting Alice, and she has self-esteem issues, you can tell. And then everyone wanted chowder, and I like, really, a Dollar Day? What you want is a fish soup. That's what you like. And hot dogs and hamburgers went, and pretty much everybody made money. That's what happened.
Yeah, Anna and Noah are on. They're friends again.
She's still mad at him, though.
Leslie's getting shit done. She's on top of everything. Claudia comes in with sweaters, or what are they? Sweatshirts for everybody.
Sweatshirts that say Sports Center or whatever.
Yeah,
Center or whatever it is. And they're going to sell off whichever ones they don't give out to the crew who are helping.
This is David Gray turned himself in. Luke there for the questioning. He's like, you're asking all the wrong questions, blah, blah, blah. The guy's not going to answer any questions anyway, whatever.
This was stupid because bringing him in, like, they bring him in, and Ramsey's like, hey, tell us a little bit about why you're here and all this stuff, which is what the cops would do, right? They would talk to you until they kind of trick you into saying something. Luke comes in and goes, what did you do to my wife? This man is just not going to stand there and admit to crime. Right. Why would you think he was going to admit to crime? Or even that he knows Laura? Everything at this point is a hunch. They know that he interacted with Laura. They don't know that he ever did anything to Laura. They don't know anything about what happened to Laura.
Right.
They're all guessing. So, like, thinking he was going to stand there and be like, I threw her in the trunk of my car and then I sold her to the Cassidines is not going to happen. Like, that's not going to, this is stupid. But I get it because Luke's frustrated and angry, and Jackie sucked him into this storyline of weirdness. And I have to agree with Luke and Robert when they were both like, your sister doesn't want to talk to you. Get over it. Like, let it go. She'll contact you when she wants to. She's not dead. And she's still, I don't know. This is all ridiculous.
I know.
All of this is ridiculous. The only important thing that happens is Scotty helps at Dollar Day, and then I think he stole all the money. I think Scotty stole the money, guys.
Why would Scotty do it?
Because he works for Durnley, and remember, Durnley owns the Sports Center.
Right.
And if they can't pay their rent, then Durnley repossesses the Sports Center from them after they did all the work cleaning it up and fixing it. So he gets a well-maintained building that was like crumbling and falling down before they got there. They did all the repairs.
How did he know where the money would end up, though? Because they had a whole process when he
don't know. That's why I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that
think of him?
It looked like Scotty.
Okay.
It was somebody in one of the sweatshirts who had the same build as Scotty. And I not that I want to blame Scott because I love Scott, but I think it is Scotty.
All right.
Because he found out that everybody was at the Dollar Day. This is allegedly. And then he went on a break, said he would be back. Joe took over for the Legal Eagle booth.
Right.
And then he disappeared. And then he comes back way later. And one of the things is they made early on is that Leslie said she thought it was her medical bag and it was Rick's medical bag that they were using for the money. But that was overheard by like a lot of people. So whoever overheard that knows that Leslie's bag looks like Rick, went to the clinic, stole Leslie's bag, took it back to the clinic and did the swap. All
right. Interesting.
This is what I was watching. I was watching all the little details because I couldn't hear what anyone was saying. It was very loud.
It was. So Alice gets a makeover. That was cute. Okay. Rick complimented her. Tiffany did it, of course. Johnny's teaching the boxing thing.
I don't care about Johnny. I want to care about Johnny, but I don't know enough about him yet.
That's all I got. So in the last episode, they raised $3,000 for the sports center, which is
good.
Is in today's money $10,072.50.
Thank you for that. I love when you do the inflation. Yeah, $10,000. That's good money.
I'm like, I want to look that up. I'm just curious to know. Leslie and Claudia, I think we're talking about it. I think are they the ones that discover that the money's gone?
First, they go to the clinic and they discover that somebody has emptied out Leslie's bag because all of her medical stuff is sitting on the counter and her bag is stolen. Then they go back and Rick and Dan, I think it is, because they go to get the money, to take the money to the bank, and they find out that in the bag is newspaper pieces cut to look like money stuffed in manila envelopes. So they realize they've been ripped off.
Rude.
And then Leslie bursts in and she's like, somebody stole my bag. And he's like, I bet I know where your bag is, because he's holding it. So like and then they're like, what are we going to do? Because that was going to pay for the insurance for the rec center.
Right. Ruby's back. She came back from New York.
Luke brought her back.
She was visiting Bobby.
And recovering from her hysterectomy, which nobody says. They all just say the surgery.
Yeah.
Or the procedure.
They talk to David Gray, and he just says he's going to follow him and watch him, of course. What else wouldn't you do?
Well, Luke was so weird about that. He wanted to get there before then. He wanted to question Gray before he got into Ramsey. He was just on a tear because he's desperate.
Yeah. Ruby goes to Rudy for a checkup, a follow-up.
She wants to go back to work.
Steve sees Rudy again. He's like, how many surgeries you do? He's like 5, but they're all routine. 5 surgeries, and it's probably morning. I'm like,
yeah,
damn.
That's too much. You're going to start making mistakes again.
Why can't Steve stop him? Doesn't he have like the power?
I think he stopped him last time. He forced him to go on vacation, but he's not going to stop already scheduled procedures because that's going to interrupt patient care. I think he would probably, that's why he says, see me in my office. I think he was going to stop him from scheduling anymore. Steve is actually a really good administrator. I know it's weird. Like you only ever see him and he's just like, everybody stop having fun and go back to work. But that is like your job.
Right.
And he does care about his employees. Because remember that incident with Bradshaw and Anne, he didn't immediately say Anne was crazy and he didn't believe her. He was like, we'll investigate and we'll find out what's going on. So like, he's good at his job.
Yeah, questions everybody, you know.
Yeah, and he worries about the reason he's doing this is twofold. He's worried about Dr. Bradshaw overtaxing himself, and he's worried about patients getting hurt and getting bad care. So like he's coming at it from the angle of I just want everybody to be having a good time over here at the General Hospital.
Yeah. Mel, David, and Laura discuss nothing.
Nothing. Waste of time. So stupid. Why are we doing this?
Seriously. Luke
Monty agrees.
Luke asked the antique shop lady about David. Tiffany plays David, and the old lady says she got a broken bird bath from there, which was really fun.
This was a hilarious performance, both by Luke and Tiffany. Like his character of the guy that sells antiques and is very strange and off-putting, like, but seems charming. And then like the old lady with her Ming vase that she had in the window, and he's like, "How much is this?" And she says 8, and he goes, "Oh, 800." She's like, "No, 8,000." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I looked exactly like Luke, shocked, and gently put it down. It's too expensive.
And I think Luke wanted to get out of there because didn't David come in and that's what she was distracting the lady.
So what happened was Luke had when Tiffany came in, like, well, actually, he came in and he was talking to her. He was trying to get into the back room.
Right.
And then Gray was coming. And I think he actually got into there and he saw the computer banks and stuff. And then Tiffany was sent in to try and stop Gray from getting into the building. And then she stayed in there and made a big scene so that Luke could sneak out of the back room and get out. Because then David is like, where, because the old lady was like, the guy was here. And he's like, "What guy? I didn't see him." And she goes, "He must still be in here. He was in here when that crazy lady came in."
Right.
And so he realizes someone was in the back room.
Which I would assume he would know that Luke's probably going to follow him. Like, but.
I know. And we are like before, like trip, like, you know, there's like not security cameras back there. In fact, the computer is like a whole wall. So we're still into the giant computers with the blinky lights, which I miss. I think they're awesome.
And Tiffany breaks the $8,000 vase.
She does. She breaks an $8,000 Ming vase, and that poor woman, she was so upset. What a great acting job she did. She was beautiful. She was like cleaning it up, and she just keeps going, "Oh, it's lost forever, lost." And I was like, "Oh."
Tiffany's like, "Yeah, that's what the bird bath was about worth." So just like ran out.
Oh my god, she was so funny. She can never go back there, but she did an incredible job. This is where you realize that Tiffany Hill is a good actress, and they need to stop making fun of her for being washed up.
So yeah, the money gets stolen. I think they accuse Blackie, but he denies it, of course.
Some white guy, I don't know. Who is this guy? His name was Tom something. He just seems to be angry, generic white guy number 5. And he is like so angry. And he's just like, "Those kids wrecked this place, and Blackie definitely stole all the money." And Rick is like, "Dude, we don't know anything. We haven't even talked to the kid yet." And he's like, "He stole it. He's a hoodlum." And I'm like, that guy today is like an angry old man who yells at kids to get off his lawn.
An actress that the lady that played Mrs. Ramirez, just one of the extra ladies around, is Mario from Will and Grace.
Oh wow. Really?
I was like, that looks like Rosario, but I'm so used to her in a different accent because I've seen her in other things, and she's always had an accent in
It's
other
also
things.
like 20 years later, like, you know, for when did Will and Grace start?
She didn't really have an accent in 1982, so I'm guessing she just does it for the, I guess, whatever role.
Hey, so you do what you can to get the role.
Yeah, I was like, she looks familiar. I looked up Rosario, and yep, that's who it is. It says Mrs. Ramirez, 1982, General Hospital.
Well, she did a great job of not being a jerk like her friend Tom, whatever his name was.
Right. She goes way back too. She goes back to the 60s. I didn't realize she was around for so long. But wow. She was. And she died, I think, in 2019.
Oh.
During the Will and Grace reboot. I remember it was during that because I did a tribute episode to her. But
that's sad.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I got. Is there anything else you want to chat about with these?
I think it was like an interesting. I think you're right. Dollar Day was too loud. It was really hard to understand what was going on. It was, although one of those things I always bring up when we're talking about the more modern show with Derek. I love when they're all in one room and you get to see all the storylines colliding and people talking about the storylines other people aren't in. And one of the things we got is like Rick and Leslie updating people on what Luke and Robert are up to. And then Robert and Luke coming later to update Leslie on what they're doing. So I love these big moments where you get to see the cast obviously having a good time all hanging out and not really working, but also like talking.
I like them, but I like being able to hear them. Like, and I feel like back then, for some reason, they like the, I guess, realism of a party, even though you couldn't hear dick of what they're saying.
I'm sure it's like a directorial choice. I did like Brian in this because a lot of times when we see Brian, he was like working the basketball court and he was giving Alan a hard time, and I thought that was very funny because we keep seeing Brian as like angry all the time, and like in this we got to see him being sweet and silly, and I really liked that option. Also, Claudia got to do a lot, like she was running around, and we got to see Jeremy for the first time in a long time. The kids were active in the storyline. I like when all the generations are in one area. The nurses' ball is a big option for that.
Yeah, I think it's just they can't have the kids on all the time, so it's always like they're always limited to a certain amount of days during the month, I think. That's why
I
in
think
GH now they still like they aren't on as much. They'll have them on like one episode because that's when they have to work. But like,
well, when it becomes summer, which is funny because of real time versus soap time, you won't
right,
see the kids until like August, and then you'll see them all the time because they filmed it in June. And
right.
you'll see the kids for like August, September, and then by the time it hits Halloween on the show, the kids are gone until Christmas. So
I know currently on GH there's so many kids I forget which ones are whose. So I'm like,
yeah, and at this point in time, a lot of the kids didn't go to actual school. They would have tutors and they would just be on set. So you got to see them a lot more often, or they just were kicked off the canvas and then storyline aged to a point where they were interesting. Because sometimes, like if it's a toddler, like a toddler's, no offense, they're hard to work with because they're kids. They want to do kid stuff. They want and like they're not interesting really until they're about like 8, 10, when they can start being in own storylines. And then some kids can't act that early, so it's like a whole thing.
yeah, it
But I
depends.
did like it. I did like it.
Depends on storyline for me too. Like, I liked when Nicholas was little and he was a little dickhead.
You mean Spencer?
Spencer, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew I was wrong. I was like, wait, I'm wrong.
It's because Spencer's real name is Nicholas and it becomes confusing. So not anymore. Obviously, if they recast, it won't be Nicholas Chavez anymore, even though I adore him. But
Right.
or even when what was the kid's name before that?
I
The one
forget.
you're talking about. Anyway, you can put that in the comments. I can
Yeah,
look it up. I'm really bad at names, guys. If you haven't been on the show for 30 years, I don't remember your name. So all I got is Nancy Legrand, guys. I don't know anyone else. So
who did a killer performance with Sam's death, by the way. I just got up to that.
Eric is forever behind. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is I did like this storyline of them all coming together to do a fun thing like Dollar Day. I also like that they had the build up for Dollar Day. In the week prior, you got to see people planning on what they were going to do. So it was like more of an event than sometimes they do in the future. Because sometimes an event happens and then it's over and it's like it impacted nothing. And I hate that. So this I liked because this also had several storylines happening in it. And we got to see the money get stolen. We got to see Blackie's kind of pulling closer to the Webbers. Scotty's up to some kind of shady nonsense as usual. It was an interesting week, except for the David Gray stuff, because maybe it's more interesting if we know where it's going. But right now, it just seems like a whole lot of, what do you call it? When they're just faking it until they get to the storyline. Fluff?
Yeah. Filler.
Filler. Yeah, filler.
I feel like
Feels
it's
like filler.
same conversation, same stuff.
This is a thing that's happening currently on General Hospital. There are a few characters who are in a holding pattern, and they've been saying the same 5 sentences over and over again, and it gets irritating. It's like, just come up with a B story, like run a little B-side story. If you have all this time before you're gonna like hit the mark on that. Do something else. Like throw something else in there. Like you got writers and they're good. Let them do stuff, silly stuff in between.
Right.
We used to get a lot more with like Spinelli. Like I feel like Spinelli gets to do the comedic stuff that Luke used to get to do. And like Maxie is the comedic character. But like in the past, you can see who your comedic characters are. You got Amy. You got Luke when he's not being serious is hilarious. You've got the interactions between Robert and Luke. You got Tiffany. Tiffany's definitely a comedic character.
Right.
And Leslie. Leslie is always very funny.
Right.
And then you have Stella, who's just there for laughs and to be like the straight man to Lila all the time.
Yeah, we didn't see Lila and Stella this time around, right?
No, I'm surprised because they are usually involved in all of the big events in town. Lila likes to be in the heart of everything. She loves all these poor people. She's really good friends with the poors.
Is she off looking for what's his name?
What's that?
Isn't she off looking for somebody?
She's looking for Jimmy Lee.
Yeah, so she's probably off doing that.
Well,
Like,
they
yeah.
don't think his name is Jimmy Lee yet. They think his name is Michael something something, whatever the mother named him, Beatrice, whatever her name is. She named him. But then he was like in military school. I don't know. We're gonna find all that out. But like Jimmy Lee Holt will come on eventually, and he'll be very much in love with his cousin, which is unpleasant and inappropriate.
But apparently okay for the 80s. As we watched in
Yeah, it's not that unokay for the 90s and today, considering that every one of those children at the nurses' ball, I think they're all related to each other, which shows how closely knit the community is at General Hospital.
right. Anywho, well, thanks for joining us today. Subscribe to our Patreon. We just did a GH93 two watches recently, which
I didn't. They
were
won't
really
let me in the 93s.
they were really good episodes. But thanks for subscribing. Join us next time. See you later.
Bye.
Everyone.